Hello and welcome to Gettable, afl.com.au's home of trade, draft, frenzy and contract news. We're here thanks to our good friends at Google. I'm Riley Beveridge. This is Cal Twomey. Cal, the draft is 2 weeks away, so today we're going to be doing something very special.
Yes.
We're going to be looking completely at the draft and we're going to be taking everyone's questions for the next half an hour or so.
Yes, Gettable vibes in the area, Riley. Pretty excited.
How was your last few nights?
Yeah, well, up to 7 shows.
7? And what will it finish at?
That's what it'll finish at 7. I'm going to go full Mancunian for today.
The accent? Can you do the whole show in the accent?
You right, lad?
All right. Cal, we will have a look now at our cover story, and it relates to that man over there, Willem Dersma. It is Dersma time. We're getting closer until Willem Dersma could potentially be this year's #1 pick.
Yeah, I mean, this guy is the guy, isn't he? We're looking forward to chatting about him throughout today's show. The 2 clubs who have to nail this year's draft, all the latest trade intel ahead of the blackout period, which begins on Friday, and the bids, bluffs and buy play. We'll get through all of those. But looking forward to this because we've got a lot of questions. Big thanks to everyone who did shoot through their questions over the past couple of days. Can't answer them all, but we're going to answer a fair few.
Can I ask you though, Cal, how do you get the questions in? If you're a fan of the show at home, how do you get the questions in?
There's actually only one way you can do this, and that is by following us on Instagram right there.
All right, Cal, we are into November now, and the draft is only 2 weeks away. So today's Gettable will be largely focused on what's to come over the next fortnight. But quickly, before we look forward, using Google's trending search data, we're going to look back at trade deadline day for the searchable question of the week. It was a huge finish to the trade period, and it's got us thinking about the headlines that grabbed the most interest. So, Cal, I want to know, who do you think was the most searched for in October from these completed trades? Was it Christian Petrarca, Charlie Curnow, Jamari Ugle-Hagan or Clayton Oliver?
I thought it was Patrick Rechko personally because that was a surprise of the last day. I'm going to go with Christian Petrarca though. I mean, this guy has the cooking element, so I'm going to say on track to be #1 search.
Number 3? Charlie Curnow 1, Clayton Oliver 2 there.
There you go.
Christian Petrarca 3 and Jamari Ugle-Hagan 4. Bit of a surprise.
I thought it would be track.
Okay, there we go. All right, we are going to get to searchable. That is where, of course, you ask us your questions and we're going to get to them. And we're going to do the entire show with the searchable questions. We'll start with Mark. He wants to know, I've seen people linking Aiden Schubert to the Ds. What do you think they need? They have 7 and 8 key forward on their radar?
I mean, I'm not sure you go with a need for a start at that pick. I think they need midfielders more than tools. Before we get to what they need, my read on Schubert is that Essendon has done plenty of work on him. But if the Bombers don't take him with one of those top 10 picks, then there's a good chance he gets through a few picks and gets selected a little bit later in the first round. But, I mean, he's one of the best, if not the best, pure key forward in the pool. So he's going to have some takers. I just think there's a little bit of a gap there where there's some clubs that probably don't need the key forward amongst those early picks. But as for Melbourne, I think they need midfielders more than tools anyway. I think with the top 10 picks there's going to be some of those guys that are available. Still look at their trade period as a clue to what they're looking for. They went for Marcus Windhager, they went for Sam Flanders, didn't get either of them. So I look at Sullivan Roby, Sam Cumming, Jacob Farrow. There's Xavier Taylor, who's a little bit different, but some clubs see him playing a multitude of roles around the ground anyway. They're a little bit of a wait and see at 7 and 8 though, but I'm not sure if they need the key forward as much as the midfield bolstering given track and Clayton Oliver left the footy club.
All right, Elliot wants to know, is there a chance Gold Coast doesn't match a bid on an academy player? They are certain to take Ezekiel and Dylan Patterson. I think the question, though, Cal's around Kobe Colson, Jai Murray, Bo Adams, all those types.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there definitely is that chance this year for them. And if West Coast pull a bid on Zeke at number 2 and then Richmond at number 4 on Dylan Patterson, which, you know, if I was doing it right now, fan of draft between us, Riley, that's probably where I'd have it. But they'll be stretched. But they are the best pick swappers in the business just about alongside Brisbane. So they know the system as well as that, and they'll be able to get what they need to do. If a bid comes a little bit earlier than expected on, as you say, John Murray or Kobe Coulson or Bo Adams, I think there is a chance that they let 1 or 2 of these guys through. But where those bids actually fall is to the eye of the beholder. I mean, Jai Murray, some clubs do rank him inside that first 20 to 25. Whether the bid actually comes there on draft night, given he's missed so much footy, I don't know. Kobe Coulson, I think, will end up there a little bit later on, that 30-plus pick. And Bo Adams, well, he has some takers inside the 30, some outside. If it's outside the 30, probably ends up with the Suns.
Okay, Marty McFly. Would the Tigers be best served splitting pick 4 and taking Sam Grill a little later?
Well, potentially. I mean, if they were set on Sam Grill and knew he was going to get through to a later selection, then it's a possibility. But The issue with this year's group is that I just don't see there being too many clubs who want to use 2 first-round picks to get up, and I don't think Richmond's going to be shuffling out of those 3 or 4 for anything less than an early first-round pick either this year or next. So to get up the board, a club has to chase pretty hard, and the Sizzler's got the sizzle, and he does bring something different to the top end. And for Richmond, I think there's some value in him. Now, if Melbourne was desperate to get up the board and go for someone of that Roby or Xavier Taylor type, or whoever it is, you'd have to use 7 and 8. I'm not sure you'd do that in this year's group. No. I wouldn't do it. What about you?
No, I probably wouldn't either. I think it's probably too big of a risk as well. If you're set on Sam Grill, just take him with one of your picks. You got 2 of them there. You got the luxury of.
I think he gets through though.
To where?
Oh, I think he'd get through to later in the 10.
Yeah, but my thing is who's actually willing in that later 10 period to move up? You're going to find someone. You're going to find a return good enough to potentially split one of them. That's the question. Nick wants to know, where does Archie Ludovic fit in now? Of course, it's been probably him and Aiden Schubert the whole way through the year, battling to be that best key forward in the comp.
Yeah, and he missed so much footy in the second half of the season, unfortunately, through that knee injury in the championship. So this was some of his best stuff, playing for Sandringham Dragons earlier in the year. I mean, he's left footer, key forward. I think he fits right into that sort of 15 to 30 part of the draft now. So I look at clubs like Geelong, North Melbourne, Essendon in the 20s range, and whether they look at Ludovic. But yeah, given he hasn't played since the end of the National Carnival for Vic Metro, it's kind of hard to see him inside that first dozen or so.
Buck.
Uncle.
Go the Bucks. Is Roby too similar for the Tigers after Sam Lawler and Josh Smiley?
I think he's different to Josh Smiley, but complementary to Sam Lawler. So don't get me wrong. I think the Tigers need to add some more run and dash. So that's where the Sizzler comes into the consideration, because he's different to the rest. But there's also an argument that you don't reach for your early picks, and despite them being able to list manage through the draft to some degree, they can really do what they need to do around that point of the draft without worrying about what you've already got. And I don't think you can have too many big, tough players who crash and bully and bash like Sullivan Roby does, like Sam Lawler does, and like hopefully we'll be able to see Josh Smiley get to be. So I think Smiley's here, and I think Lawler and Roby are a different type of players altogether.
Yeah, and I mean, if they were to get a Roby and then a Sam Grill, like that complements each other as well. So that's what you can get. It's a bit different if they take 2 big-bodied midfielders with 3 and 4 to add to last year, but if you can get that complement this year, I think it works for them. Melanie wants to know, which club has to nail this draft?
There's 2 that stick out for me. I mean, everyone obviously with the early picks, but there's 2 that need to get there and nail this draft bigger and more than anyone. West Coast and Essendon. So West Coast has picks 1, 2 and 13. It's done a lot of work over the past couple of years to generate more early selections and to be able to use them to effect. So, but with 3 selections inside the top 13 now, they have to get these right, and that's where Willem Dersma comes into the considerations. I mean, this guy is a top quality prospect. There's no doubt about that. Been saying Brendan Goddard all year. I'm standing by that. I think he's the guy that I look at as the match winner, the game turner, the guy that can flick around and play just about anywhere. Of course, the number 1 pick back in the early 2000s himself. And then there's Essendon, where it's just as important for them to get this right as well. So 5 picks inside top 30, 2 top 10 picks. The last time they had multiple top 10 picks, of course, was 2020, and then before that, 2015, with Parrish and Francis. It doesn't happen often for them to get these multiple picks. So this trade that they did last year with the Kako and the Melbourne bid and all those type of things, it's worked out well for both of those clubs. But these are the picks it has to nail now. And 5 inside the top 30. Both of these clubs really have to go hard and get this draft right.
I said Essendon in what I've got written down here, but where does Swade and Alashka fit into it now with the 5 picks inside 30?
Yeah. I'm not. They're weird for me in terms of like the clubs have really split opinions on those 2, and one club might rank Huss at 15 to 20, and the other one at Swade at 15 to 20, and the other one a bit further back. It's really different types of rankings, so it's hard for me to get a gauge really on where those bids are going to come. Look, I don't think there's absolutely any guarantee on them matching a bid if it comes inside that first 30. Because I reckon this year's draft, and we'll get to this a little bit later as well, I reckon this year's draft, if a bid comes at 25 on someone, there's a fair chance a club at 25 will have a player on its board who is 14 or 15 ranked there. So are they is that gap too big at that point to match the bid? So I don't think it's a guarantee those guys end up at the Bombers.
Yeah, just speaking of clubs,
just where their picks are as well.
It feels like the variation in, you'll get one club say, oh, we think this player's top 10. The next one will say, oh, we've got him outside 40.
Yep.
So it feels like that variation is huge in this year's draft, which will make the bidding system very interesting on the night. Ad wants to know odds of Latrell Pickett being taken by Melbourne at 7 and 8. This is an interesting one because they've clearly got some interest in him, but the next pick is until 37. So do they bite the bullet early and take him with one of those top 10 selections?
Look at the feet. I mean, he's pretty exciting, isn't he? I have others ahead in that region personally for that early part of the draft. Not expecting at this point that he's part of that group that gets an invite to draft night. That's always a bit of a tell about what that top 10 is looking like. Kicked 32 goals, though, for Glenelg's reserve side. We know the Melbourne link, of course, through his cousin, Cozzy Pickett. We spoke about him last week on the show. Cozzy Pickett was very quick to comment on Instagram about him as well, on our post about how good he's going. So, but he's 20 later this year, so can he be that Liam Ryan type who steps in as a mature age, a small forward, and does some things that are really exciting and makes a difference straight away? GWS and Sydney are two clubs that have done their work on Latrell Pickett in recent times. GWS has that pick 12. Sydney has the pick later in the 30 odd, depending on where their bid on those boys ends up as well.
All right, Pete wants to know how many teams will aggressively try to trade into the first round?
Well, I mean, it will depend if a player slips down the order a bit unexpectedly, I think, but I just don't see the demand for it as much this year. Now, you never know how much a club really rates a player. Like, you know, did we see that Carlton would rank Liam Stocker in that first 6 or 7 that year and push up that hard? Did we see that Geelong would rank Max Holmes that hard in 2020 and push up and use their future first? No one actually knows that until draft night. But I look at the clubs who don't have first round picks and wonder if they'd be interested. So there's St Kilda, Collingwood, Port Adelaide, Sydney. I'm not sure there's the desperation of those clubs to use future ones to get into the top end of this year.
Yeah, particularly with Collingwood Sydney, where they've got academy and father-son in Collingwood's cases.
Port's tapped out of this year's draft, so I can't see them doing it either.
Yeah, Mitchell says, my favourite player is Harley Barker. What clubs are into him? South Australian midfielder, you had him nearly on your top 20 in your last form guide.
No, I'm a fan as well. I know there are clubs who are hoping he drifts inside to that like top 30 odd part of the draft, given he went down with the ACL. But I think his carnival was just too good, and we see some of it here. All Australian player on the wing for South Australia during their carnival went down with the ACL injury not too long after that. But GWS, Adelaide, North Melbourne, among the clubs who've shown interest in him around that sort of 12 to 30 mark.
Speaking of GWS, Shane wants to know, will they get anyone through their academy? Does Riley Hamilton, you reckon, looks likely?
Think so, yeah. I mean, he's the guy, if they're going to take anyone. He's the best GWS prospect this year. Performed well at the Carnival for the Allies. Shapes as a rookie pick, I'd say, or that later round pick for the Giants. 190 centimetre medium forward. Did some good things, tested well at the Combine as well. So eligible for the draft last year, come back this year and has improved. So he's the standout Giants prospect this academy period.
Josh says, how many academy players will Sydney land? They've got Harry Kyle, Max King, Lockie Carmichael, Noah Chamberlain, who we've had on the show before.
Yeah, I think Noah Chamberlain's probably shaping more to be the late/rookie option for them. And then the other three, well, there's some who view that Lockie Carmichael bid as coming 15 to 20. Some see Max King being around that range as well. And the interesting part is some might have Harry Kyle just inside the 20s too. So Sydney might have to make a choice, you know, and that the difficult part on the choice is if a bid comes on one of the guys who maybe you rank second or third, but you want the next one to come through, how do you manage that scenario on the night? So, look, it's rare that the Swans would knock back a prospect inside that top 25, I would say, but I think that the likelihood is they manage to get at least a couple of those guys.
They need one to slide, don't they? They need one to slide. Madge says, will North Melbourne package up picks to push up the board? They've got 25 and 26 to start.
Looking more unlikely, I'd say, at this point than likely. And this has got to do a little bit with the draft depth. And we speak about that top end of the draft pool, that first dozen or so players, and whether there's a value in getting into that top group or just hanging back. Now they've got those picks inside the 20s. Now we know Gold Coast pick 15, Brisbane pick 17 are both up for grabs. But is that player better than the two players in the 20s this year? I'm not sure it is.
Yeah. Okay. Jordan wants to know, does Richmond take Louis Callaway with pick 38?
Well, it's not a certainty, no. So they nominated him as a father-son last week, but without any guarantees they were going to select him. The same went for Charlie Banfield at the Eagles, Kalani White at Melbourne, and Will Darcy at the Dogs. So all four of these guys are shaping as late/rookie rookie selections in different ways. The thing is that 38 this year, and we're speaking about this before, 38 this year, I reckon a club is going to get a player who's ranked around 20 mark on their draft list at that point. So, and if that's the case, then there's that likely outcome where it's a possibility where the player that they rank, how do you rank them against the Kellaway type? What does that mean for his father-son stocks at the Tigers? And is there a chance that he gets through to be a rookie selection for them? So I don't think it's a certainty that they use that pick on him at all.
Josh, who will Essendon's priorities be at 5 and 6?
Well, as we said, it's a huge draft for them, and they need to get these ones right. So they've no doubt had interest in moving up the board with an eye on Dersma and Cooper Duff Tyler. There hasn't been an official offer to date for that number 1 or number 2 pick. I'd throw 5 and 6 at the Eagles for 2 and 13, knowing that's probably not going to happen. And I don't think that'd shake them, but it'd start the conversation. Would you do it?
Who am I?
Both.
If I'm Essendon, I probably would. For Cooper Duff, do you reckon? Is that the player?
No, I'm not 100% sure on that.
Yeah, okay. What about if I'm West Coast? Do you know what? If I'm West Coast, I think I probably would. Because you've got to pick one, and then you end up with 1, 5 and 6.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't mind that if I'm the Eagles. Take 3 picks inside 6, see what I can get.
Look, I don't think it's going to happen, but I'd be throwing it out there anyway. Look at what Essendon's done over the trade and delisting period. So Ben Hobbs delisted, Dylan Shield delisted, Will Setterfield delisted with the possibility of getting another go. Nick Martin's out for half the year next year out of their midfield. So their midfield now is looking like, where's the gap? It's needing to be filled. Darcy Parish is going well, but hopefully gets back to some of his best form. Hasn't played a lot of footy over the past couple of years, particularly if you forecast that Zach Merritt's every chance to want to look at moving again next time around in 12 months. So with that in mind, is it midfield? Sully Roby, Dyson Sharp, Sam Cumming are right there, I think, for the Bombers. Dyson Sharp is the one that, with a leadership capacity, I've heard him speak about being a Bombers supporter as well. I'm not sure if that changes the view or not, but it can sometimes make, if it's a 2% chance you think someone might be a chance to leave down the track have some pull back home. If he's a big supporter of the club, then that can make a difference. I do like this part of his game. He can go forward and kick goals and take a mark. So he has done that across his junior career. So I think Essendon would be Sharp's starting point. There's Hawthorn, West Coast, Adelaide after that, all into the mix of his draft range. But I think that midfield group, looking at what they've done over the off-season, the Bombers, they'd have to be prioritising that. Like it.
CJB says, will father, sons and academy players be off limits for Tasmania's pre-draft signings?
There's some. I love the fact that these draft rules have come out. There's still some little details.
Nuances still to be decided.
Yeah. I'm not sure that any players will be off limits.
Oh.
Now, whether they take them up on those offers is another thing.
It's still the player's choice, isn't it?
Still the player's choice. But then Tassie could say, well, we're going to draft you next year anyway. So, and we're going to make it really hard. We're going to bid on you at number 1.
Yeah.
And if you don't come, then we're going to bid on you, the next person, number 2, and make it really hard for the club who holds those players to keep them. But, I think those details will be nutted out pretty soon. But, that is a big watch because they're going to have a huge hold on those guys. And then the 17-year-olds, they've got to get moving on that. That's potentially as soon as next year.
Yep. More Dogs asks, will the Dogs trade 14 into next year to help with the potential Butters capital? It's interesting because during the trade period, they're actually trying to trade up further from 14 for a time there. So what do you reckon? Are they a chance of trying to shift capital into next year?
Yeah, I think they keep a first-round pick, though. Yeah. I mean, I still think they'd like to bolster that group. And there's some players who might get through to be around their range who are pretty talented. But you'd have to look at the collateral required next year and if you can get anything for shifting back or if there's any clubs open to moving up, a number of spots. They currently have their full hand for the next, 2 years?
Yep.
And then next year it'll be 2 years beyond that.
Yep.
But they have their full sweep for next year. How much more are they going to need?
Riley Sanders, if he doesn't take up a contract in the next 12 months, he's one they could get capital for, but wait and see on the Dogs. Toby wants to know, who do you expect to be in West Coast's mix at 13?
Dyson Sharp if he got there.
Yep.
Jacob Farrow if he was available as well. And Harley Barker type, is he someone who could come into that range as well? Look, it's hard to pick exactly for needs when you look at the Eagles group as well, a little bit like the Bombers. They've got a lot of needs, so talent.
All right, Footy Locker's asked this question specifically for you. I think he thought if he asked this question, you would definitely answer it. Where would Murphy Reid be picked in this year's draft?
How did this one get in?
This is playing to your audience, isn't it, from Footy Lock?
It's been a while since I've gone on a Murphy Reid victory lap. I'm about due. What was he?
17.
Best first-year player.
Yes, he was.
Up to pick 17. He was rising star.
Yep.
Top 3 this year? No, I'm not sure. Clubs would probably have the same questions they had on him that they did last year that saw him get to pick 17. Look, they got that one wrong. I'm going to put my hand up. I've got many wrong. It's very
Every
easy.
club got that wrong.
It's very
Apart
easy.
from Fremantle.
Very easy to get these things wrong.
17 other clubs there, Cal.
But I think he showed that he should have gone a little bit higher than pick 17.
Yeah.
Look, he probably fit into the top 6 or 7, I'd say, this year comfortably. In saying that, he probably should have been there last year.
Yeah, he should have been. Thirsty Hawk, who would be your target at pick 10 for Hawthorn if you were running the list?
If I was running the list...
Something you do.
Something I do, you reckon?
Something you do.
Oh. Yeah. Pretty popular with Hawthorn supporters.
It's been one of my favourite byproducts of the entire trade period.
Yeah, that's how those things work.
Oh, that's good.
Jacob Farrow, I reckon, would be a good pick.
Yep.
If he got there, I think he'd add something. He's got a bit of a Hawthorn feel to him, I reckon. The left foot, the rangy type, play half back, go through the midfield. Josh Lindsay, a little bit the same. I think that's probably about where his range begins. Dyson Sharp too. Do they go for midfield? Sharp, I'm not sure if he's the fit. Like they let Warple go to bring in Sharp straight away. There's some similarities there in terms of what they'd be able to bring from day dot. I think Ollie Greaves could be there at their second pick or beyond. So they do have the links with him going back to obviously the RNGA application earlier this year.
They've got 22, so that's their next pick after 13. After 10. Billy wants to know, where's Harrison Bridge on draft boards, the Brisbane Academy prospect?
Yeah, Brisbane Academy tied. Had a very good junior CV before injury limited him this year a bit. So he's in the thoughts of the Lions for sure, alongside those other couple of Academy boys past Dan Annable, so Isaac Waller and also Ty Prindable. I think where the bid comes on, Annable will shape that a tiny bit in terms of what they do with their other picks, but Lions likely to use 3 to 4 picks. I'd expect a couple of those Academy boys to be in there. Okay,
Jamie wants to know, where does this year's SA crop rank against recent years? It's going to be pretty strong. There could be 9 or 10 in the top 30.
Yeah, it's really good. Let's have a look at the names who went to the Combine. And Sam Ainsworth, the ruck, Harley Barker, as we've spoken about, Sam Cumming, Louis Kellaway, the father-son's prospect, Matt Leray, Mitch Marsh, your man Cam Nairn, Blake is there as well, Zane Puka, Javan Filippo, Noah Roberts-Thompson, Aidan Schubert, Dyson Sharp, Blake Threadgold. It's a good list.
I really like Threadgold as well.
Yeah, and off those sort of 14 names, there's 12 might get drafted.
Yeah.
Maybe even more across if you include a couple of the rookie spots. So very strong crop from SA and good to see a couple of the bolters push up from SA as well, particularly including Blake Threadgold.
Yes. All right. Kane wants to know, who are the links to Fremantle at pick 20?
I mean, what do they need, Freo? You don't.
They've got a pretty complete list, don't they?
Yeah, they're in not a spoiled position because they built it, but they're in a spot where they can wait and see what gets through. Oscar Taylor's maybe around that draft range, who I like. And bring some good run. Harley Barker, if he got through, they're probably a club that could take on someone who's going to miss a lot of next year. Blake Threadgold as well. Do they top up and continue to develop in the key tools space? So they're in a pretty good spot. I think that pick 20, the deal they did to get Judd McVie for pick 20 and McVie was a good move. All
right, GP, is Adelaide the best chance of trading up to Carlton's pick 9? They've got 16 in futures that they can use to get up.
Yeah. This is really a complex one because if Adelaide is going to trade up to that pick, it's going to be doing it blind because it won't really know who's going to be there. So often if you trade up to the pick...
That's a good point.
You do it with the knowledge of who's going to be there, but Carlton would want to get out of the pick when the bid comes and not when Adelaide's ready to move up the board.
Yeah.
And that bid is going to come before Adelaide knows who's on the board.
Unless the bid's at like pick 8.
True.
That's the only scenario in which it sort of works for them a little bit.
Don't think it's going to be that late. But the latest I think it is going to be the Bombers. But so if Adelaide was going up for a specific player, or if they have a group of 3 or 4, then maybe they do it. Again, don't know if they do the future first rounder to get up that amount of spots. Carlton has options, but it's still going to depend on where that Dean bid actually comes. The easiest is to just wait it out and hope that bid comes around that Essendon pick, and then the Blues' next selection just gets squeezed back a bit. And gets in before the Jack Ison bid, but that's going to then be tight. That'll be tighter if that pick gets through to 20 odd. Then there's some interest in him around that point of the draft.
Yeah.
So they have some decisions to make. They're coming soon, though.
They certainly do. Frank, do you see Hunter Holmes getting to Geelong, the Oakley Chargers winger? Is the brother of Max?
Yeah, their plan at the moment is meant to use 2 picks. Right now, they are 19 and 40. Now, they could, of course, if they want Hunter and think he's going to get through later, they could trade back from 40 on the night. Those type of things have happened before. I'd be surprised if it was inside that sort of 40 for Hunter, but there's a possibility for that, or a possibility for him as a rookie option as well. He's showed some exciting athleticism across this year playing for Vic Metro and also the Chargers.
He certainly did. Mitchell, who has the best AFL fantasy game of all the draftees? I know you are a massive fantasy sports player, Kel.
Well, yeah, it's in my blood. I think Dan Annable is the guy. Maybe not straight away, given he's going to be going to the Brisbane, but for those, it's keeper leagues, isn't it?
Keeper league. If you're in a keeper league, that'd work, I reckon.
Yeah, Dyson Sharp would be good too. Zeke Ewing would be good. I'm going out on a limb here, but Annable averaged 23 disposals at VFL level for 8 games this year.
All right, let's rifle through some more. Mickey, any genuine pick swap intel?
Let's have a look at the board if we can, because this is the first round. The genuine pick swap intel, as opposed to the disingenuous,
as opposed to
the fake stuff we give out on other shows. Look, I don't think there's going to be a lot of movement inside that top group. What I would say, though, is that Gold Coast have picked 15, 18, 24, 28 and 29. Brisbane picked 17, 23 at the moment. It's making it very hard to work out where players are going to be, because all those picks are going to either be in different hands or disappeared or swallowed up. So that's what I'm saying. The pick swap window closes on Friday. There's going to be not many deals done before then, but a lot done at the start of the draft when the gates open.
How are you going to do the phantom draft with that?
Got 2 weeks to work that out.
Yeah. Well, there's some clubs that are going to, like Carlton, for example, might actually cook you in the phantom draft.
They definitely could.
You're going to have to get the calculator out. All right, go Tigers. Is Leon Kickett a national draft option? He was invited to the National Combine, so what does that suggest, Cal?
Suggests there's interest in him. I think he's in that sort of 30-plus part of the draft, more likely, about second round onwards, but certainly in the thoughts of clubs. And pretty exciting player, and has come on in leaps and bounds this year. It was great to see him get that call up late in the season.
Declan, is Geelong any chance of getting Josh Lindsay? They have 19, so it would have to be a bit of a slide.
Unlikely. I think to get there, it'd be a surprise. I see, as I said before, he's his starting point between that sort of Hawthorn pick 10, Giants, Bulldogs, Cats. So 10 to 20 is probably the range for the left-footed halfback.
Swizz, how many players get drafted this year, Cal?
I said about maximum 57 a couple of weeks ago. I'm sticking to that.
Okay, Johnny, where do you expect the early bids to come? Is it Zeke Ewing, Dill Patterson, Dan Annable and Harry Dean, the only ones inside 10?
I think that's the order.
Okay. Ian, there we go, that was quick. Ian, where do you think a bid for Zach McCarthy comes in? Of course, he's the Collingwood next generation prospect, 199cm key forward.
25 onwards, I would say. I mean, he's developing talk, so it's these guys never dominate their year. I think the start of his year was probably better and more sort of on form than the second half, but he was hit by some injury setbacks in that second half. But when he's up and going, we see the athleticism like this for a guy who's 200 centimetres. There's a lot to like. So Collingwood tied through his NGA. I think somewhere in that sort of 25-30 part of the draft onwards.
Edward, is Port Adelaide looking at any players late in the draft? Is there a chance they take no players here, Kel?
There's a chance. I mean, they've spoken about that, haven't they? During the trade period that they could do that, but they're obviously doing their work on the draft. I'd be surprised if the way this draft pans out and the varying views of the draft that there isn't a player that they like later in the pool.
One, surely.
I think they take one. I'm banking on them taking one. Come on, Port Adelaide. Use a pick.
Do you know any of them?
No. Not yet.
Poor Edward. All right, Dan, what's Tom Burton's draft range, the Western Jets prospect, Cal?
Probably 35 onwards. Small back or midfielder. Played some pretty good footy this year for the Jets and also Vic Metro. Tested well too at the Combine, 2.92 seconds over 20 metres there. So can find the footy and use it out of halfback. Probably, as I say, that second round, mid-second round onwards.
All right, and finally, Troy wants to know which clubs have been linked to one of our favourites here on Gettable, Lockie Doveston.
Yeah, he's pretty popular in the teens. He's like TikTok. Carlton, Bulldogs, Hawthorn, around that range. I think he's somewhere in that range of selections. Look, let's see who ends up with Gold Coast pick 15 and also Brisbane's pick 17. But I think he's right in that sort of category of the draft, and as he should be. He kicked 50+ goals this year.
Great.
He had a really good season, Lockie Doveston. So when Dovs fly.
When Dovs fly. Favourite song from the set list over the weekend?
I would say Roll With It. What about you?
I thought Stand By Me went off. It was good. All right. Plenty more draft stuff still to come on Gettable over the course of the next couple of weeks. We're, of course, back next week on Wednesday, but then beyond that, the week of the draft night countdown is coming back once again, the 3 days leading into the draft. We're then going for it on Draft Night Live as well.
Question for you.
Yes.
Anybody fancy some lasagna?
Let's go. All right, that's Gettable. See you next week.